that's the best idea since they faked the moon landing.
Okay, cut.
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
To Naperville's Janet Faina, Armstrong was not only a skilled test pilot, but also a co-worker.
He was so down to earth. He was
really very unassuming. You really, if you didn't know who he was, you'd have thought he was just the guy next door.
She was an employee of NACA in the early 1950s before the group became NASA, and believes Armstrong's success in previous missions made him the right pilot for Apollo 11.
It didn't surprise me that Neil was picked to be the captain of the first moon landing because of his experience and his already proven ability to handle anything that came up.
Faina worked in NASA's Public Affairs Department for more than a decade, organizing information for the press.
We would sit with a tape recorder and a typewriter, and we were 15 minutes behind, but we would almost real time type that onto multilith masters that we handed through. This is really archaic. And we were sending a man to the moon.
At the time, NASA's motto was "Failure is not an option." America was in a space race with Russia, and NASA was trying to send a man to the moon before 1970. Faina still remembers when that dream became a reality on July 20th, 1969, on budget and 1 year ahead of schedule.
It was incredible. It was just incredible. We said, golly, that almost looks fake. I mean, it's so perfect.
said, golly, that almost looks fake. It said, golly, that almost looks fake. I mean, it's so perfect.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Fellow astronaut Captain Jim Lovell commandeered Apollo 13 and knew Armstrong very well.
Neil Armstrong was an icon that represented the best in America.
Today's students have a hard time relating to Armstrong's mission as it happened more than 40 years ago. Apollo 11 was Armstrong's final journey to space, but he continued to work with NASA for many years, finally becoming a professor, businessman, and advocate for America's space program. Captain Armstrong's family released a statement after his passing. They say the next time you're outside on a clear night and you see the moon smiling down on you, think of Neil and give him a wink. And give him a wink.
And give him a wink.
25 years and my life is still just trying to get up that great big hill of for a destination. And I realized quickly when I knew I should, this whole world's made up of this brotherhood of man, for whatever that means. So I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed, just to let it all out what's in my head. And I'm feeling a little peculiar. And so I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high. And I scream the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, 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 hey. I said, hey, what's going on?
From Aubert's book, Rockets into Interplanetary Space, he learned space travel was as much mathematics as imagination.
I was appalled by the fact that it was filled with mathematical equations, and at that time neither math nor physics were exactly my strengths at school, so I went to my math teacher and asked him what I could do to understand this book, because I really wanted to understand whether it was possible to build such rockets.
It was going to take more than mathematics, more than imagination. It was going to take vast amounts of money.
Wernher von Braun began to see the handwriting on the wall, and he confided with some of his colleagues that we've got to do something more than just this amateur business of trying to raise a little money here and a little money there.
In the spring of 1932, he met Captain Walter Dornberger, the officer in charge of the German Army's new rocket program. Dornberger needed someone with von Braun's vision, enthusiasm, and talent, and he hired the young man. Von Braun welcomed the opportunity, even though it meant building weapons. Von Braun redoubled his own efforts to persuade Americans to support space travel. And he persuaded them.
Number one, he had a lot of charisma. But number two, he had a very convincing selling capability. He single-handedly sold the United States Congress on spaceflight, let's face it.
In fact, many people believe that we have produced more scientific knowledge with our smaller vehicles than the Russians have with their much larger ones.
Do you share that opinion?
In the scientific field, yes, sir. But I believe the Russians still have an edge on us in the payload capability.
He was great with Congress. The Democrats controlled the Congress, and the good Southern Democrats were the ones that could relate to Wernher very well.
Disaster struck on January 27, 1967. 3 Apollo 1 astronauts were killed in a launch pad fire.
Many people thought that the tragedy of Apollo 1 would be the end of the American space program. And that would have been a great disservice to the memory of the people we lost.
Ignition sequence start.
Less than 2 years after the Apollo 1 calamity, von Braun's Saturn V put 3 Apollo 8 astronauts into orbit around the moon.
1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
Apollo 8 was a watershed mission. Coming off of the Apollo fire, it gave the whole organization a tremendous boost in morale. It made it possible to carry out Apollo 11 on the schedule we did.
Nearly a decade earlier, President Kennedy had challenged the moon and his countrymen. On a beautiful summer night in 1969, America prepared to meet the challenge.
Astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and then finally Mike Collins. Right on time as far as the astronaut countdown is concerned. The prime crew now.
It was really very exciting to be at the Kennedy Space Center in the very early morning hours. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. It was still dark, but the flares were all directed upon the Saturn launch vehicle. It was some sort of an eerie feeling.
It was like the unbelievable has finally become believable.
It was like the unbelievable has finally become believable.
And through the efforts that we knew, of the people that we knew that were working on this, that were making it possible, were our neighbors, our across-the-street neighbors. They were who was making history happen.
We knew that the city of Huntsville was solidly behind us, and with your continued support, I will see you back in orbit with that new space station, to which we will all ride in a reusable launch vehicle, and maybe one day we'll have a man on Mars. Thank you.
After the moon landing, there were great plans to go forward with a lunar base, space station. In fact, the month after our first moon landing, in July 1969, von Braun appeared before a congressional committee and presented in detail a manned Mars landing plan. And no one was listening.
The lunar colony was supposed to be in place by about 1980.
The lunar colony was supposed to be in place by about 1980.
And the Mars colony was supposed to be in place by 1990.
And the Mars colony was supposed to be in place by 1990.
So that by the year 2000, we'd have people populating at least the near planets.
So that by the year 2000, we'd have people populating at least the near planets.
There are, of course, many other things competing for public interest. There's an election coming up, and there's a war going on in Vietnam, and there are problems in the cities, and quite a few people seem to believe that we are taking money away from the public purse. We prefer to see our space program in a somewhat different light. We believe that we are actually producing values, and we are producing values at a faster rate than we are taking money out of the treasury. And we are producing values at a faster rate than we are taking money out of the treasury.
6 Apollo missions landed on the moon between 1969 and 1972. But von Braun would not be based in Huntsville for all of them. He was transferred to NASA headquarters in Washington in February 1970.
My friends, there was dancing here in the streets of Huntsville when our first satellite orbited the Earth. And there was dancing again when the first Americans landed on the moon. I'd like to ask you, don't hang up your dancing slippers.
Don't hang up your dancing slippers.
If I could turn the page in time, then I'd rearrange just a day or two and close my eyes. But I couldn't find a way, so I settled for one day to believe in you, to tell me lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies, tell me lies. Oh no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Although I'm not making plans, I hope that you understand there's a reason why. Close your eyes. No more broken hearts. You better off apart. Let's give it a try. To tell me lies. Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies.